Kramer and Danielson explore zoo volunteers' role development process and how they made sense of their roles during their initial organizational entry and during ongoing immersion after organizational changes. Both authors conducted semi-structural interviews, which are more flexible in nature as they are more conversation-based, with 41 zoo docents as their participants. The authors chose the interviewees based on a critical instance sampling, as the zoo in particular met the requirements that it just went through a huge organizational change. This approach was appropriate for exploring their data because it related to an incident that the volunteers were unique to. In this metropolitan zoo, the long-term CEO retired and a new CEO came in his place, emphasizing a significant change. The new CEO was described as unfriendly, someone who rarely interacted with them and was making an amusement park out of the zoo, which contrasted the previous, more loved CEO. With this in mind, they had a less structured interview guide as they asked general questions regarding the process of becoming a volunteer, communication interactions, and changes in their roles, with a bit of flexibility by also asking follow-up questions in order to gain a better understanding. Interviews are conversations with a purpose, and therefore they enable the authors to explore something that would otherwise be unseen. Answering how the docents made sense of their initial roles relied on their motivations, reasoning for volunteering, formal and group socialization, where they had trainings, quizzes, and monthly meetings. They also had experienced docents as mentors who provided them with the most information. The volunteers had the opportunity to individualize their roles by selecting the duties that they enjoyed most, the days that they would volunteer, and also socialize with others during lunch breaks and build friendships. After the change has occurred, it affected the docents' duties and reduced their volunteering opportunities, as the new CEO hired a paid staff to give tours, host birthday parties, and teach classes, while having the docents stationed at particular exhibits with carts that had various zoological artifacts. Communication from management after the change was limited, and it had a negative impact on the volunteers, which resulted them to make their own sense of their roles in different ways. Negative impacts that some docents experienced due to their dissatisfaction is that they left the zoo, and those who stayed made sense of the change by no longer being valued or appreciated, while others created excuses to justify the paid staff and the changes of their reduced opportunities. On the other side, the rest of the docents either made sense of their roles and adjusted to the zoo changes. Some of them even criticized those who resisted the changes, and others would have hope in believing that things would get better in the future. In this study, we can conclude that communication plays a huge role, and that managers should routinely express their appreciation to the volunteers like the previous CEO did, with always thanking them and making them feel supported.